Welcome, dear viewers, to a world where darkness and mysticism meet in the creepiest forms. Here, in this abandoned corner of the internet, we will delve into the darkest corners of the human imagination. Prepare for awe-inspiring horror, as each of our stories is imbued with sinister secrets that lurk in the darkness of the night. Scary stories that remain beyond your imagination are waiting for you on our channel. Don't forget to turn on the lights, get comfortable, and hold on tight, because now we are going into the world of nightmares. Are you ready for it? Then welcome to our scary story.
The cavern was a place forgotten by time, hidden deep within the bowels of the earth. A shroud of perpetual darkness hung over its entrance, shielding it from the prying eyes of the world above. Within this ancient tomb, a creature of the night lay in a slumber that had endured for 2 millennia. In the heart of the cavern, where no natural light ever dared to penetrate, the vampire known as Velik had rested. His tomb was a chamber carved by unknown hands, its walls adorned with strange, cryptic symbols that glimmered faintly in the dimness. Velik had chosen this place for his long sleep, sensing its unique energy, which resonated with his own dark essence. For 2,000 years, he had been imprisoned in this deep, dreamless sleep, his consciousness adrift in a sea of shadows and memories. His body was perfectly preserved, locked in a state of unending stillness. But as the world above changed and evolved, so did the forces that governed the land beneath. One fateful night, the earth trembled with a violent fury. The ground quaked, and rocks tumbled from the ceiling of the cavern. Dust and debris filled the air as the once peaceful chamber was transformed into a chaotic maelstrom. Velik's body was jolted from its timeless slumber, and for the first time in 2,000 years, his eyes snapped open. His eyes, once pools of eternal darkness, now flickered with an unholy crimson light as they adjusted to the sudden intrusion of light. His senses returned to him in a rush, and he could feel the earth's heartbeat, the life force that pulsed through its very core. It was as if the earthquake had awakened something deep within him, a primal hunger that could no longer be denied. Velik pushed himself up from the stone slab on which he had been lying, his movements stiff and awkward after centuries of inactivity. He staggered forward, his bare feet crunching on the shattered fragments of rock and crystal that littered the cavern floor. The air was heavy with the scent of dust and decay, but beneath it, he could detect the tantalizing aroma of human blood, carried on the faintest of drafts. His lips curled back in a predatory grin as his fangs elongated. Velik's senses guided him towards the source of that alluring scent, drawing him deeper into the labyrinthine tunnels of the cavern complex. He was ravenous, his thirst for blood insatiable after such a long slumber. Meanwhile, on the surface, the seismic event had not gone unnoticed. A team of geologists and archaeologists, led by Dr. Elena Morgan, had been conducting research in the area for weeks, studying the mysterious geological anomalies that had drawn them there. As the tremors rocked the ground, they hurriedly gathered their equipment and sought shelter. Dr. Morgan, a brilliant scientist with a reputation for her unyielding determination, was undeterred by the chaos around her. She had spent years searching for answers, and she believed that this remote cavern held the key to understanding the enigmatic forces at play in the region. As Velik ventured deeper into the cavern, drawn inexorably by the scent of human life, he unwittingly set in motion a chain of events that would pit him against Dr. Morgan and her team. Little did he know that the group of determined humans above would be his first adversaries in this new, unfamiliar world. The stage was set, and the ancient vampire had awakened, hungry for blood and power. While the humans prepared to face a darkness they could not yet comprehend, the seismic upheaval had shattered the Earth's crust, sending shockwaves reverberating throughout the region, creating an astonishing surge of energy that rippled through the darkness of the ancient caverns. The force was enough to awaken the vampire from his long slumber. In this chapter, we delve into the intricate details of his awakening, his initial actions, the thirst for power and blood that propelled him into a brutal hunt for innocent inhabitants. As Velik's crimson eyes adjusted to the newfound light, a surge of vitality coursed through his ancient veins. It was as if the very earth itself had provided the catalyst for his awakening. The earthquake had been a catalyst, a jolt of raw, untamed energy that now fueled his insatiable appetite. He could feel his strength returning, his senses sharpening, and a familiar hunger gnawing at him. Driven by an instinctual thirst for power and blood, Valak moved through the subterranean passages with a predator's grace. His steps were purposeful, the predatory glint in his eyes reflecting his anticipation of the hunt that lay ahead. The once dormant vampiric prowess surged within him, honing his senses and instincts. He emerged from the depths of the cavern, stepping into a vast underground chamber adorned with towering stalagmites and stalactites. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and mildew, but beneath it all lingered the intoxicating aroma of humanity, the scent of fear, vulnerability, and life. Valak's ears caught the faint echoes of footsteps reverberating through the chamber. The humans had ventured deeper into the cavern complex, unaware of the ancient evil that now stalked them. He advanced with predatory stealth, his movements silent as the shadows that danced across the cavern walls. Meanwhile, on the surface, the geologists and archaeologists were regrouping, assessing the damage and preparing to descend once more into the earth. Dr. Elena Morgan was determined to uncover the secrets hidden within the depths, even in the face of the earthquake's unexpected intensity. She sensed that the key to understanding the enigmatic forces lay within those very caverns. As Valak drew closer to the group of humans, he could hear their hushed voices and racing heartbeats. The anticipation of the hunt coursed through him like a drug. He hungered for the lifeblood that would restore his full power. The centuries of slumber had left him weakened, but now he was on the cusp of reclaiming his former glory. The humans turned a corner, their flashlight beams cutting through the darkness. Valak's eyes narrowed as he prepared to strike. The element of surprise would be his advantage. He would unleash terror upon them, relishing their fear and desperation. Back on the surface, Dr. Morgan led the way back into the caverns. She was resolute, her determination unwavering despite the ominous tremors. Unbeknownst to her and her team, they were about to face a darkness beyond their wildest imaginations. The stage was set for an inevitable clash between ancient malevolence and modern determination, a battle that would shape the fate of those entangled in the web of darkness and horror that had been awakened. The hunt had begun, and the vampire would stop at nothing to satiate his thirst and regain his dominion over the night. In this chapter, we delve into the perspectives of the groups of heroes who are beginning to comprehend the gravity of the threat they now face. We explore their personalities, motivations, and their attempts to unravel the mystery of the vampire as they discover gruesome and enigmatic murders, presumably committed by the vampire. They strive to piece together the fragments of the puzzle to understand how to stop him. Elena Morgan stood at the forefront of the group, her determination unshaken even in the face of the mysterious deaths that had begun to plague their expedition. Her keen intellect and relentless pursuit of knowledge had led her to this point, and she felt a deep responsibility to protect her team. Her mind raced with theories about the disturbances in the underground caverns, and she couldn't shake the feeling that they were connected to the ancient evil they had unwittingly awakened. Lucas Reynolds, a young geologist with a penchant for adventure, was driven by curiosity and a desire to prove himself. His initial skepticism about the existence of vampires had given way to a gnawing fear as he witnessed the inexplicable events unfolding around them. He had taken it upon himself to research the legends of vampires and unearth any knowledge that might help them combat the menace. Sarah Foster, an archaeologist with a passion for history and mythology, brought a unique perspective to the group. She had always been fascinated by the tales of ancient civilizations and their encounters with supernatural beings. As the evidence of the vampire's presence mounted, she delved into her extensive library of historical texts, searching for clues that could shed light on their adversaries' weaknesses. James Carter, a seasoned spelunker, had an unparalleled knowledge of the cavern complex. He had explored its depths for years, but now the tunnels felt different, cursed even. He was plagued by nightmares of shadowy figures and whispered threats. James was the first to connect the recent deaths to the awakening of the vampire, and he couldn't shake the guilt that he had played a part in unleashing this terror. The group had gathered in a makeshift command center deep within the caverns, their faces etched with concern and uncertainty. Elena addressed the team, her voice steady but tinged with urgency. "We can't deny it any longer. There's something down here, something ancient and malevolent. We've seen the signs, the strange symbols, and now these murders. We need to figure out what we're dealing with." Lucas chimed in, his voice carrying a note of unease. "I've been researching vampire lore, and while it sounds absurd, there are common threads in the legends. Vulnerabilities to sunlight, garlic, and wooden stakes. But we need concrete proof before we jump to conclusions." Sarah nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "We have to gather as much information as possible. Historical accounts, ancient manuscripts, anything that might give us an edge. We can't face this threat blindly." James, haunted by his nightmares, added, "I know these tunnels better than anyone. We should set traps, find choke points, and prepare for a confrontation. We can't rely on folklore alone." As the group discussed their plan of action, a sense of dread settled over them. They were up against an adversary that defied logic and reason. The vampire, awakened from a 2,000-year slumber, had begun a reign of terror that threatened not only their lives, but the very fabric of their understanding of the world. Unbeknownst to them, Valak lurked in the shadows, observing their every move with a cruel and calculating intelligence. He reveled in the fear that gnawed at their hearts, knowing that their struggle to comprehend the nature of the threat would only serve to make their eventual defeat all the more satisfying. The heroes were on the cusp of unraveling the mysteries that shrouded their adversary. But they were about to discover that the true horrors lay not only in the ancient legends, but in the chilling reality that walked among them. The hunt for the vampire was intensifying, and the battle between darkness and light was poised to reach a terrifying climax. In this climactic final chapter, the group of heroes confronts the vampire face to face. Tension builds as they resist the vampire's horrifying powers, search for weaknesses, and make desperate attempts to defeat him. As the chapter unfolds, the truth about the vampire's past and present is revealed, leading to an ultimate showdown and the vampire's final demise. The underground chamber was a labyrinth of shadows and echoes, a haunting backdrop to the imminent confrontation. The heroes had prepared as best they could, setting up traps and fortifying their positions, but the anticipation of what lay ahead weighed heavily on each of them. Elena, the stoic leader, glanced at her team, the dim light flickering off the determined expressions on their faces. "Remember," she reminded them, her voice resolute, "we're facing an ancient evil, but we have each other and knowledge on our side." As if answering her call, the darkness seemed to deepen and a chilling breeze whispered through the cavern. The temperature dropped and the stench of decay filled the air. The vampire, Valak, emerged from the shadows, his presence commanding and suffused with a malevolent aura. "Ah, the curious intruders," Valak hissed, his voice dripping with mockery. "You seek to challenge me? Mortals, you underestimate the power that courses through my veins." Lucas stepped forward, clutching a vial of consecrated water. "We know your weaknesses, Valak. We're not as defenseless as you think." With a flick of his wrist, Valak sent a gust of wind that extinguished the torches, plunging the cavern into darkness. He materialized behind Sarah, his eyes blazing with malice. She felt his icy breath on her neck as he whispered, "Knowledge alone won't save you." The battle had begun. The heroes fought valiantly, their every move calculated, their determination unyielding. Elena and James distracted the vampire, leading him into a carefully laid trap, while Lucas and Sarah sought to uncover more about Valak's weaknesses amidst the chaos. Sarah delved into the ancient texts she had brought, searching for any information that could help them defeat the vampire. Meanwhile, Lucas analyzed the patterns of Valak's attacks, trying to anticipate his moves. They found references to a talisman, a source of Valak's power, hidden within the caverns. In a desperate gambit, they coordinated with Elena and James to lure Valak into a chamber rigged with UV lights and mirrors. The plan was to weaken him with the lights, momentarily blinding him, and then retrieve the talisman. The moment came, and they executed their plan. The UV lights flared to life, and Valak hissed in pain as the light seared his undead flesh. While temporarily weakened, Elena and James frantically searched for the talisman. It was a race against time. Sarah and Lucas discovered a hidden chamber beneath the cavern where the talisman lay protected. But they also uncovered the truth. Valak had once been a human, cursed by a dark ritual, fueling his thirst for power and blood for millennia. The talisman amplified his vampiric abilities, allowing him to control shadows and manipulate minds. Armed with this knowledge, they raced to retrieve the talisman. The battle raged on, with Valak regaining his strength. Just as he broke free from the UV-lit chamber, Sarah and Lucas managed to shatter the talisman. The effect was immediate. Valak screamed in agony, his powers waning. Elena and James seized the opportunity, driving a wooden stake through his heart. The ancient vampire disintegrated into ash, his malevolent reign finally coming to an end. Exhausted but victorious, the heroes emerged from the depths of the caverns, their minds forever scarred by the horrors they had faced. They knew that evil could manifest in the most unexpected forms, but they had also proven that with knowledge, unity, and determination, they could triumph over the darkest of foes. In the end, the legacy of Valak served as a grim reminder, a tale of terror passed down through generations, a cautionary story of the perils that lurk in the shadows. And as the sun rose, dispelling the darkness, they knew that they had faced the ultimate test and emerged stronger for it.